Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. It's Lane here with MetaShackle. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Telcoin, going over a couple of different things because why the market was deep in the red today, this happened. And I have been talking quite a bit about Telcoin through about the last 3 weeks to a month. I have been accumulating a very nice position, buying a little bit each day. I have been continuing to increase my position, buying a little bit each day along with ZBCN as the price was working against me. And for the majority of the time that I have been buying Telcoin, with the exception of my first and largest purchase, which occurred at much lower prices, the price has basically been working against me for the last month that I've been accumulating. And just like I said in a previous video, there would be individual catalysts within certain cryptocurrencies that would work against the grain of the overall momentum of the market. That is exactly what we have seen. Now, there's certainly no guarantees that Telcoin's going to go to the, quote, moon, unquote. But in terms of cryptocurrencies, these are the risks that we take by investing in certain coins. And most of us invest in coins because we believe in the fundamentals. We believe in the story. We believe in what they offer us in the future moving forward. Whether it's a currency, whether the coin has utility or functionality, there's many different aspects to this game that we are currently playing. But one thing is for sure, we are currently in a moment of time that is absolutely transitional. This only comes along about every 100 years or so. So what we do now will determine the course of the rest of our lives and likely the lives of the people in our families, especially the younger generations. So we don't want to waste what we do today, because doing so would put tomorrow at risk. So let's not waste any more time and let's get into the video. For additional information and exclusive perks, do consider joining me and the rest of our community on Patreon. Now, taking a look at the Telcoin chart, this is the 1 hour. Just zooming in on today's price action, we can see that we had an absolutely incredible move. Coming down from this low right here, we can see if we come up to the top, that basically this overall move reached up at the peak at about 56% increase in a single day. I would call that impressive. So what exactly is causing this move to occur? First off, if we go to the FDIC website itself, into a section that they refer to as failed banks, we can see that on June 27th, 2025, the Santa Ana National Bank failed in Texas. We can see that on January 17th, 2025, the Pulaski Savings Bank failed in Illinois. In October of 2024, the First National Bank of Lindsay failed in Oklahoma, which happens to be where Telcoin is licensed and regulated. We can see here that in April of 2024, the Republic First Bank of Philadelphia failed in Pennsylvania. Citizens Bank in November of 2023 in Iowa. Kansas in July of 2023. The Heartland Tri-State Bank failed. But if you go down the list, you can see that there have been quite a few bank failures going back through the pandemic and right before that time in 2019. In my personal opinion, this is going to continue. It's currently estimated that U.S. banks are sitting on $500 billion in losses from their bond and U.S. Treasury investment portfolios, which means that if there is a sudden burst of people wanting to take their deposits out of a bank simultaneously, which has historically been called a run on the bank, that would force these banks to turn these unrealized losses into realized losses on their balance sheet by selling them at a fire sale in order to get the cash to be able to pay the withdrawals of the depositors, which basically would work on a first-come, first-served basis. So when the cash runs out, the bank fails. And if you didn't get your cash out, then you don't get your cash back at all. And I don't know if you've noticed, but there has been a string of videos that I've seen recently of people going to banks to try to withdraw even small amounts, $3,500, $5,000, and the banks literally threw a hissy fit, questioning everything they were doing about making that withdrawal, asking what it was going to be used for, who it was for, if they were doing this on their own free will. This isn't a sign that the customer trying to take the money out of the bank is the problem. This is a sign that the bank the customer is trying to withdraw their funds from is the problem. They always project onto you what they are doing. So when we think about this potential for bank failures to start spreading out across America, and we're moving into a time where digital assets are set to take the stage, basically circumventing the legacy system that is slow, that's expensive, that's been around for over 100 years, that desperately needs to be upgraded. What is the logical move? Well, in my opinion, the next logical move is going to be regulated digital banking. And in this particular regard, Telcoin is miles above the competition. If we look at companies like Ripple and we look at what they're doing, attempting to get banking licenses, they have custody features, hundreds of partnerships around the globe with different countries, different corporations, different banks. Ripple is setting up a system, albeit much larger than what Telcoin is doing, and much different in terms of the aspect of the market that they are attempting to reach. As it sits right now, Telcoin is the only licensed, regulated, and approved digital asset depository or digital bank in the world. They have the first mover advantage. So of course people are going to be absolutely excited about this. I went through this particular article on one of the first videos that I did about a month ago talking about this. Now here is a recent post from the official Telcoin page that says, "A pivotal milestone for blockchain integration into the financial system. Granted final approval in Nebraska, this novel charter enables Telcoin Digital Asset Bank to connect U.S. bank accounts to regulated digital cash stablecoins," which in regard to Telcoin having its own stablecoin, which it refers to as digital cash, which if you're not familiar is known as EUSD or electronic US dollar. Now granted, the total supply of EUSD is extremely small, meaning that it's basically just getting started in this particular regard. If you look at Ripple's RLUSD is light years ahead of EUSD. But EUSD is looking at an entirely different aspect of the market than Ripple currently is, which can essentially act as a digital asset depository as well as a medium using mobile partners, giving you the ability to go back and forth between the digital system and the current system that we are now using, putting banks and fintech on the same level, essentially putting your access to spending digital dollars in the palm of your hand and being the first licensed, regulated, and approved digital asset bank. The first mover advantage, in my opinion, is going to be huge. I definitely believe that companies like Ripple are going to be incredibly bigger, having a much wider reach, but also targeting completely different aspects of the market than Telcoin will. And in regard to all these bank failures, if they start to cascade out of control and we start to have a run on the bank, what do you think is going to happen to stablecoins? Because they certainly are not going to be immune to this particular problem that we could face very soon. But one of the only ways to get around it would be the people who are holding digital assets, depositing them into banks and actually using them and putting them out into the economy. And as I've talked about previously, I do believe that the DXY right now is the most important chart of them all to watch. Because as I have been saying in previous videos, it looks to me like the dollar could be setting up for a massive move to the upside. Since the last time we talked about the dollar on this channel, the price was basically trading right in this range. We have since taken out this bullish fair value gap, punching right through it and taking out these volume imbalances here that I was speaking about at the time. You can also see how they affected the price and how it started to trade in this area. But this is basically sitting with this peak right here at about 100.36. We also have a gap right here which is unfilled, sitting at about 100.94. A volume imbalance resting here at 101.75. And the biggest of them all resting right here centered at about 103.43, all of which are currently below my equilibrium zone on my chart. If we jump over to the weekly chart, you can get a much better perspective of what we're dealing with and where we are currently trading in this area here. If the DXY takes out these imbalances and somehow is able to get through this equilibrium zone, getting up above it, we could see an incredible run, especially how price has been trading within this channel as long as it has. And we are now trading at the bottom range of this channel. We could see price appreciation within the dollar on an incredible scale, bringing the value of the dollar up considerably, which would make it a lot harder for average Americans, but would simultaneously be making stablecoins much stronger as they are based on the US dollar, essentially being pegged to it, which could essentially breathe that first initial breath of life into companies like Telcoin, using digital cash to get the Telcoin digital asset bank moving, to get it rolling, to get it out there, to get people familiar with it, to start advertising, get people using it. And you mark your words, I will sign up for an account personally, and I will use it. But in order to get to the top of the stairs, there are multiple steps in that staircase, and this is one of those crucial first steps that we need to overcome in order to making this transition to the new quantum financial system, which is coming whether we like it or not. So when we hop over and we take a look at the Telcoin chart, this is the weekly chart. If we pull some fib levels based off of this previous high here, coming off of this previous low off of this point, we can see that it gives us these fib levels right up here in this particular range, which essentially would take the price in the range of about 6 cents for the 1.618, with the previous all-time high resting right here. Flipping over to the daily, we can see that price has been trading within this descending channel for quite some time, going back to about July of 2025. We have now broken out, outside, and up above that with this current move. So what we'll be watching now is this upper trend line right here, going off of this descending channel within the larger pattern. If we can get up above this, we can challenge this bearish SIBI resting at about the 007 range, to which we could then attempt to take a run at cracking this upper trend line. If we can get up above that upper trend line right here, that would be a fantastic move, but we still have this bearish order block on the weekly to contend with, centered right around 0.016 range. So even though we saw an incredible move with Telcoin today, it is still early. And I'm going to personally continue to accumulate a little bit of Telcoin each day until I am able to get my Telcoin position at my target range. Because I am looking at Telcoin in the long term. I'm not thinking about 50% jumps in a day. I'm not even thinking about it over the next few months. I'm thinking about it in terms of at a minimum 2030 to the 2032 time frame, perhaps even beyond that scope, because I personally believe that it's going to be the long term that is absolutely going to be the least risky and has the most potential to be profitable. So this is definitely one that I'm going to be continuing to accumulate along with ZBCN. And depending on what happens to the overall crypto market, as things have been incredibly bearish, we still have the tail end of the bull run on one side, and on the other side they're saying we're deep in a bear market. I'm not exactly sure where we are sitting in that particular regard, but in terms of the long-term aspects, I'm going to continue to accumulate key assets when the prices are attractive. So if we are in fact in a bear market and prices get cut in half and get cut in half again, that's great, because I will eventually get to my target points and I will start to accumulate key assets like XRP, XLM, HBAR, Algo, Quant, IOTA for considerably cheaper than where the prices currently are. And if prices stagnate or continue to rise, I will simply just continue to hold. But right now, I'm looking for undervalued assets with high potential. And I personally believe, and this is not financial advice by any means, that Telcoin and ZBCN are in that category. They're certainly not the only ones, but those are the two that I'm watching. And if you're looking to trade leverage responsibly or perhaps spot, or even if you're just looking to save some coin when swapping your cryptos for zero fees, check out Bitunix. Bitunix is the only place that I trade crypto, and it's where I swap all of my cryptos. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every single one of you. And regardless of what happens over the next few days, weeks, or perhaps even months, remember you're still early and the best is yet to come.